Here we are with Dr. Stein Smith. Good morning to New York and welcome to Kuble CONF 2020, Sean.
Good afternoon, happy to be here.
Sean is an assistant professor at City University in New York, and in his session he will talk about live streaming and the blockchain. With that, I hand over to you, Sean. The screen is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And so obviously, I'm going to be trying to analyze and to overlap how blockchain and crypto can actually benefit and help really one of the most innovative and fast growing areas of the online ecosystem right now. Sort of this whole technology that all of us are actually using right now today. And to just add some extra background on me, that's a headshot of me wearing a suit and a tie. And so my interest and activity in the blockchain crypto asset area is actually quite a bit. I'm on the boards of a few trade groups. I'm on the board of a company in the crypto payment area. And I do quite a bit of writing, corporate trainings, and all of that good stuff. So brief intro about me. But into our conversation here, because I only have you for 4 hours, right, today? Kidding. And so honestly, what I'm going to try to cover is honestly how blockchain and crypto can help solve a few of the issues and headwinds out there that have popped up and that are continuing to pop up as the whole online enterprise and individual content streaming sort of community and economic sector continues to grow, evolve, and actually become a huge international business. And so with that said, let's get right into some of the content for today. So really sort of it's important to always keep in mind to have some context and background that the concept of content streaming might only kind of bring to mind options like Netflix, Hulu, Acorn, other sort of content, movie, TV options, right? BritBox, other options of that kind. But honestly, the idea of a streaming model is almost everywhere in the international business landscape. Right, and a few of the core traits that actually are the baseline fundamental characteristics of this business model are that it's customized, personalized, it's on demand, and every option out there actually gets better as you interact with it more often. So it's really a big change as to how most companies interacted with their customers and how most individuals interact with each other in an online environment. Okay, so obviously the big players out there, Netflix, we have Sling, Acorn TV, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, that are the big players out there as it comes to corporate enterprise models, right? But the real growth and the really interesting area that I've seen in terms of how blockchain and crypto can actually help this area evolve and grow is the individual content that's made by individuals and then just posted out there for anybody to comment on, download, watch, all the rest. We have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitch, a whole host of platforms that are open to almost anybody to join and to use and to upload content to. Almost anybody. And to upload almost any content, which we are going to get to in more depth in a couple minutes. But the real growth is really in how this burst of activity and burst of enthusiasm for this individual content creation and online streaming has really opened up a door for anybody to get information from anybody else, or to get entertainment, right, from anybody else anywhere in the world at any time. And so opening up that door in terms of the flow of information actually mirrors the underlying goal of most crypto, most actual blockchain platforms. Basically opening up doors, trying to cut down barriers to entry to the transfer of information, knowledge, and actual compensation. So I'm sure all of you have heard of the Instagram influencer, TikTok influencers, any stars that are online who are able to actually make quite a bit from their online individual content. And on top of that, right, on top of the ability to open doors to information, to actually compensate people fairly, hopefully, which we are going to get to, there's also this idea that really to have any progress or any debate, there have to be different points of view brought into any conversation, be it politics, be it economics, be it sports, entertainment. There has to be a online diversity of views in order to make any progress on any issues, and in order to really help the idea of content creation to help spread information actually work as advertised. All sounds good so far, right? But there are some issues, right? As in any industry, as in any new facet of a economic area, there are going to be issues, and the issues that do pop up are not insignificant. So obviously, depending on the country that is being talked about, there are institutional firewalls, national firewalls, that can block or alter or actually pull down pieces of information and content and points of view that could be different than the official narrative. And to add on to that, there's always the implications of any government oversight and potentially over trying to regulate a area, basically trying to get out in front of issues or individuals before they actually become a issue. And then anything to do with the data integrity, data privacy are obviously hot issues here in the US right now. And I know that the over in the EU, the whole idea around basically trying to take the ownership of data back to the individual has been a big issue for, I'd say, since 2016. And then how to actually compensate people, right, for their content and their effort and their output. It isn't always going to work equally or really as advertised. And then at the very bottom, if you do post content or upload content in a certain area or on a certain topic that is then artificially flagged or artificially classified as fake news, whether it is or not, you are able to actually get deplatformed off of that entity. So really, in terms of the upside and the obstacles to the streaming area, to the streaming economy, and it's a huge area, right, from sports, entertainment, and individuals, that there's a lot of upside. But there's also quite a few obstacles out there in terms of data privacy, data ownership, accurate compensation, and then also, there are issues where it's not entirely clear who owns or who has access to the content being uploaded onto these platforms. And really the ownership of the content and the ownership of the information are really hot topic and hot button issues for individuals uploading content on their own to platforms, as opposed to corporate entities do obviously own the corporate IP. But as an individual, if I'm uploading content onto a online streaming platform, how do I get compensated? And then how do I prove that I own that IP, intellectual property? Okay, so how can blockchain and cryptocurrencies help, right? Because there are some heavy duty issues out there that do have the that could actually prove to be a major headwind to the growth of the streaming economy. So, what are some of the characteristics of blockchain, and how does it overlap and how does it merge with the idea of a sort of globalized network where individuals can store and transfer data? Well, it's almost a perfect fit, right? Because any type of blockchain, to be a public blockchain, private blockchain, corporate blockchain, or some a hybrid, is a platform made to store and to transfer data between members of that network, and to do so on a continuous basis, and to do so in a encrypted manner that actually places data integrity and privacy at the core of any application running on a blockchain. It can be Bitcoin, it can be other applications running on a blockchain, but at the core of any idea is that trust, traceability, and extra transparency in terms of who uploaded that data, who controls that data, and then who has accessed that information. So it's almost a perfect match to help address issues out there in terms of content ownership, content compensation, and data privacy. So let's take a look. And sort of the whole idea of blockchain and streaming could be construed as kind of a abstract idea or an idea that's interesting to know about from a intellectual point of view, but it's actually already happening. For audio files, movies, paperwork, I mean, there are firms out there who are doing this right now. There are companies running on a blockchain with tokens, cryptocurrencies basically, trying to help different types of online content either stream more efficiently, more effectively, or to try to actually bypass some of that potential oversteps. Okay, so some of the other issues out there in terms of streaming that can be addressed with blockchain and crypto are the ideas fake news being actually monetized, meaning that after uploading content, you were told that, hey, you aren't going to get paid for this, which is not fair by any stretch, probably. And the idea of actually deep fakes, which I know that all of us have probably seen or heard about, either heads of state, corporate leaders being shown, doing and saying all sorts of terrible things, but they're actually fake. But they look very, very accurate. And so how can blockchain, how can crypto help address these big issues out there going forward that could really trip up the individual content creation and content online platforms? And how can we do so in a manner that actually makes the individual streaming part of this online economy actually able to operate on a economical basis? So why does it actually matter, right? Sort of the online streaming business on the surface might not seem as if it's a huge issue, right? Or a huge deal from a actual dollars, pounds, or euro angle. But it really is a fast-growing space, and it's going to be worth $21 billion in terms of annual earnings for the content being made by 2025. as terrible as 2020 has been, and as awful as COVID is, it has forced more content and more individuals into an online environment like today. And so really the upside or the impact of that for the streaming area is only going to be positive. So it's only going to grow larger and become more of an issue over the next 5, 10, 20 years. So how do we make streaming pay, right? Because any industry has to be able to compensate the individuals, entrepreneurs, content makers who are out there, and especially as it pertains to the streaming economy, be it for corporate or for individual. How do we make sure that as the content is used, watched, streamed, consumed, all the rest, that the content creators, content owners are actually being accurately compensated? And a big component of that is sort of the decentralized nature of how blockchains operate and the increased data integrity. So on a blockchain, and obviously it would be customized to work for the client or the corporation that is being talked about, but I can then get insights, get that higher level of transparency into who has opened that file, who has viewed that file, downloaded it, and then I can actually get paid for every time that file is opened. And as we pointed out previously, there are firms actually doing this right now. So on the surface, it can seem a bit odd to be talking on issues like a micropayment. But if I uploaded a course online teaching topics like blockchain, and I wanted to be compensated for each minute of content of that course being viewed, I can do that with blockchain and with cryptocurrencies, right? Because each cryptocurrency, and I'll use Bitcoin because it's the highest profile one, is able to be chopped up into hundreds of pieces. And so then it's entirely possible that I can charge for every minute being watched. And that's a huge deal, because I don't know if you are all aware, but for the probably the biggest institutional player out there is YouTube. They actually pay different rates, different amounts to uploaders of content depending on how long their upload is. And so now if I can charge on a per minute basis, I can actually offset that risk. And as a blockchain, it's a lot more difficult to take down because there is no one hub, there's no one entity trying to manage all of this information. And so, okay, fine, but how does this keep fake news from being uploaded? Well, in order to add any information onto any blockchain, public, private, enterprise, in the US, overseas, in Western Europe, there has to be a consensus reached among the members of that network to actually go ahead and upload that information. Okay, cool. But the current platforms do a excellent job, right? Actually not. Google, Facebook, YouTube, Apple, they're all constantly under attack for having bad content uploaded, inappropriate, whatever, fake news, whatever, all kinds of deeply inappropriate content being uploaded. So trying it in option B, right, via a network-based approach actually makes good business sense. And because each IP address or each network member has to upload it basically individually, if that IP address or if that member or if that user ID is trying to over time keep uploading fake news, bad information, inappropriate content, then basically as a network, the other members can actually cut out that sort of bad actor. As opposed to having one hub or one sort of centralized player trying to make that call for all of those members. And of course, as I'm sure all of us have heard about at the very least, I've actually been a part of events that were actually Zoom bombed, and it's not fun. And so there's a gap, right, between the current streaming options and the data integrity that has to go alongside with that, right? Doing events live is always more complicated than trying to do it taped in advance. Always, always, always. And so as the number of events and individuals upload content as a actual live stream, it is going to be more important to have that extra layer of integrity and data privacy over those uploaded actual live streams. And so really it makes perfect sense from a big picture point of view. If you had this technology platform that at the core of it actually let users vote as a group as to what content is appropriate and is in compliance with the overall sort of guidelines of the community, and has data encryption, data integrity at the core of it, and has an option to let content creators get compensated as their content is actually viewed or streamed or consumed, it would seem like a perfect fit. And as far as the actual payment goes, I mean, I know that there is a conversation around the transaction processing speed of actual blockchain networks, but actually that has moved quite a bit forward, right? From the conversations in 2017, where a common complaint from enterprises, from companies trying to use it, we're all focusing on the fact that it took too long to actually process payments and process transactions. Actually, and I'd say really beginning in 2018, there have been actually organic solutions built out to actually customize and to be made to before ongoing continuous micropayments. And as we had outlined earlier, most every single cryptocurrency out there is able to be chopped up into hundreds or actually thousands of pieces and to be paid out as content is used, consumed, or accessed. And for any industry, be it online content streaming, be it any firm, any industry, there has to be a way in which the content creators, service creators, good manufacturers have to be compensated in a adequate, timely, and a transparent manner. And blockchain and cryptocurrencies basically give that option out to these individual content creators. So a quick word here about a potentially controversial topic. I know here in the US, there's a vote coming up, apparently, in, I think, 12 or so days. And so currently, right now, there's a lot of conversation going around, actually what language can be used, freedom of speech, and all the rest. But for any debate, for any conversation to have any impact or to actually try to address any issue or to solve any problem, there have to be differing points of view in that conversation, right? No one source of information is always going to be right, ever. And so having individuals able to have conversations, to be able to post their own points of view, to talk about their experiences with issues is critical. And even more so, I would say, in this COVID world, where all of us are artificially forced to be apart from each other, having that access to other points, other angles, other experiences is really, I'd say, a underlying strength of the streaming ecosystem idea, right? Because then I can actually view, I can talk to, I can interact with people all over the world, hear them directly, talk to them, and try to actually hash out what some of these issues are. But if all of that conversation is actually monitored by a hub or by one entity or a quote unquote great firewall, it's a lot harder to have those open debates and open dialogues that are so important to an open marketplace and an open world, right? And so if we are going to have that happen in a world that is going to be more online now and going forward, we are going to have a way and a platform and a technology platform to allow we as individuals to consume and interact with content that actually fosters productive and objective conversation without having to always worry whether or not it fits the official narrative at that time. And so really the whole point here, it was to really talk about the applications and the upside of blockchain and of cryptocurrency for content creation in an online streaming based way. And if I go back and say, well, we have this idea, individuals uploading content to be consumed and interacted with on a on-demand, personalized, customized basis. And I have this, on the other hand, this technology application that is by its very nature decentralized and has data integrity and privacy at the core of the idea and is not governed or managed by any one entity, then it honestly is a perfect match. Right? Traceability, transparency, and data privacy are at the core of any future development in this area. And so I know we did want to have some time for some questions, and I don't know if any have come in so far.
Yes, indeed. We have questions.
Okay.
Many thanks for these insights. Sean, Claire would like to know, channels are increasingly becoming a political instrument of larger actors. Now, does the blockchain actually return power to the users?
I would say so, yes, but it's always important to know who's actually in charge of the coding and the actual managing of that blockchain, right? So the idea of the original Bitcoin blockchain, totally open source, managed by all of us members, right? But as enterprises have started to use blockchain, there is an organizing entity or a group of organizing firms. But honestly, I would encourage all of you to go and actually pull up some of the companies that are currently doing this. And so how that normally operates is the company operates sort of the platform on the back end. And then as far as how the content is uploaded, how the blockchain operates in that sort of bubble, basically, is actually governed by the members of that community. Mm-hmm. So it's basically backed or supported by a entity, but actually how it operates on a everyday basis is actually governed by the individuals trying to upload their content.
One platform that was mentioned in the comment is Steemit with 2E. Do you know it?
Yes, I have started to hear some things about that. I have not personally known anybody who has actually gone onto it yet to actually consume content, but I have heard of it, and I would say that that's probably the new competitor to Twitch. Basically trying to live stream games, content, and all of that. But I have heard of it. Yes.
Of course, Twitch was also a topic in other sessions. Another topic from another session was also mentioned in a comment. Your previous speaker was talking about China's influence regarding live streaming, retail, e-commerce. How do you see China's role with regards to the blockchain?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So it really comes. I would say that there are two possible ways, right? One is that now we're going to see basically a kind of bifurcation of the internet and the online world at large, right? One governed by China, who is quite open with their ideas to control content and the points of view posted online, right? They are very open on that topic. And then the other model being a more open source, open forum debate. But as far as their influence on blockchain, I would honestly say that their influence in blockchain has potentially been oversold, right? That I know that there is some conversation around how much of the Bitcoin mining capacity is headquartered in China, and that the PBOC has launched their own crypto yuan. But it's important to note that in order to actually have any influence or impact on anything, your ideas, products, and actual services have to be used by other people. And so I would say that there is going to be a kind of push and pull as opposed to how much control China wants to have over these new tools and platforms, and how much influence the party in China actually wants to have on a international basis.
There's one more question about from Bernhard about sort of the legal component that you mentioned. Is what you were talking about already taught in law studies at universities?
So the whole conversation around content creation, streaming, and the freedom of speech debates are indeed right now being hotly debated and hotly contested, both from a politics point of view, legal point of view, and economic point of view. So yeah, I mean, all of these issues, I mean, I tend to focus on it more from a market side, from a econ side, but there is this whole other sort of legal, political aspect to it that is always a part of any conversation. But as I always try to say, politics change, heads of state change, but the underlying issues don't. And so it is important to try to sort of bifurcate that issue of the politics of the time and the actual issues being analyzed.
Yeah, maybe the question was more towards whether it's already taught and discussed related to the blockchain.
Oh yes, I know. No, so as in terms of the content that I was talking about here, yes. I mean, I know that I've taught blockchain crypto courses focusing on their different applications now at 4 different institutions. There are numerous online programs offered at institutions around different aspects of blockchain and different cryptocurrencies, either from a IT side or a business application side.
Now, you mentioned that in order to have influence, you need users of your service or platform, and there were 2 related questions regarding usage. And at the moment, it's why. One question was, why are blockchain-based platforms not more popular and bigger? And second, and maybe that's the reason why they're not more, why the usage is sometimes a bit not that high yet, because they're not that accessible. How do you see these aspects?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, and what I would say there is that talking about blockchain being used or cryptocurrencies being used now is basically trying to forecast the future of the internet back in 1992, right? At the time, it did not really have that many applications or individual users at the time because it was still hard to use, right? But I serve on the board of a company operating in the payment space, right? And the entire focus of that firm over the last 12 or so months, and basically every firm out there in the blockchain space, from the large to the small, has been how to make it more accessible, more easily understandable for the individual, right? For the non-expert person trying to figure out what actually blockchain is, how it works, what are different cryptocurrencies, and then how can I use these as a medium of doing business. So what I would say there is that if you ask that question in 2025, I think you would have a very different answer in terms of the actual blockchain being used.
All right, and looking into the future, there were two more related questions.
Sure.
What do you think? How long will it take until a blockchain-based streaming service similar to Netflix could be, one, established, and second, used? Because I think there needs to be, why should users leave YouTube, Twitch, and other platforms? What needs to happen that they're willing to?
Sure, and really, I think that's going to be a part one influenced by the application, right? Is it easy to use? And so I'll stick with YouTube for now, right? There recently, and really just within the last half year or so, have been a increasing number of content uploaders onto YouTube who have actually left and have gone to other platforms that are not backed by blockchain, but they have left YouTube because of increased heavy-handed oversight, videos being demonetized, taken down, and the
Where did they go to? Was it Twitch or what other platform?
They went to there is one that comes to mind, just give me a second, Nebula, Nebula.
Okay.
Has been an alternate platform that I've heard mentioned by at least half a dozen high-profile uploaders onto YouTube. And I would say that as that continues to increase, because I know that a comment that was in an earlier question basically pointed out the fact that on platforms like YouTube, there is a increasing influence of corporate media and more institutional voices. And as those institutional voices take over more of the content airspace, there is going to be this push for the individual content creators to actually find platforms that are more conducive and more open to having their content be the main focus.
Thank you very much for these great insights, and Sean. That was our last speaker session for this conference. It was tremendously inspiring to hear so many different perspectives on live streaming over the last couple of hours. And one thing I will keep in mind, and it was very nice to see how everything is connected. For example, what you just mentioned about the blockchain and monetization, it's something that we discussed in the morning with a music streaming, live streaming platform in South Africa called Discover TV, or what the previous speaker was explaining us about China actually might have shown the future not only of retail and e-commerce, but also of esports, brands coming into esports, more and more sponsorship, and many more very interesting connections. Many thanks also to our audience for your comments and all the interaction with questions. And now we're getting ready for the next session, which will be the wine tasting. You will again see the behind the scenes camera with some music, and then we will be back in a couple of minutes.